Someone said my glorious King James is a what? I'm making the argument that your glorious king is a slave.
I have a dream.
No. But I do want to have a very real conversation today about the intricacies or entrapment, social entrapment, or positionality of a black athlete in a public spectacle.
The number one job in America, the point of person, is someone who doesn't understand the people.
Like I said earlier, today I want to make the case that LeBron James is a slave. And this is a very wild sentence, okay? I get it. Like, he's literally a billionaire, but his spectacle, or rather his soft power, follows a history of black superstars who were contextually prohibited from succeeding due to a protection of masculinity. You know what I mean?
I'm numb to this commentary. Like, must they run their mouths like that?
When you black, it's not a movement, it's a lifestyle.
I'm saying LeBron, because of his stardom, has a microscope on him.
So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
Like, LeBron exists in an ethos where black is an asterisk, right?
I have a dream.
LeBron, you have to, that one clip where that one guy is like...
But when you're a black man in this country, you can't compartmentalize. You must compartmentalize to stay static.
The black athlete has to compartmentalize. That's me right now. That's me, okay?
I have a
That's
dream.
me right now. First of all, picture this, okay? A horse. Okay, picture a horse.
Now picture a dude with dreads on it, backflipping like Playboy Cardi, spitting at the ops, peak aura farming.
This was basically the first popular black athlete, Isaac Murphy. We're gonna be going over the history of horses and their contextual, I guess, positionality in the sport of horse racing. Okay, we're gonna be going over black horse racing, the Great White Hope, Tony Hawk, the Hoop mixtape phenomenon, to trail into a path into how soft power of slavery created this image of an athlete. But first of all, picture this. Imagine you put a formerly emancipated slave, right, against a president in a horse race. Who would win? A formerly emancipated slave against a president in a horse race. What is the chat saying? Chat, place your bets. Well, anyways, so there was this guy named Andrew Jackson, and he was a president. He was one of the many slave owners at a time who pitted up their horse racers on the track for money, right? I'm about to pop up the screen for you. Y'all gotta see this. Well, I don't know how much of y'all learned about Andrew Jack. Someone said I'm betting on the horse. But Andrew Jackson loved horses, okay? Andrew Jackson was the horse boy dude. And he served as the 7th U.S. president from 1829 to 1837. He worked as a horse trader from a very early age. By the age of 15 in 1782, he was already considered shrewd. When he worked as a merchant and slave trader in the 1790s and 1800s, he and his assistant, John Hutchins, often shipped both horses and people to the lower country for resale, right? And he was the owner of the racetrack at Clover Bottom, right? He was one of the guys that existed in our main character of the video essay, Isaac Murphy's life. Isaac Murphy was one of these formerly emancipated slaves that was really good at horse racing, right? And Andrew Jackson loved betting on his horses. Like, this was like steak before Drake and Aiden Ross, you know what I mean? Steak before clip farming, you know what I'm saying? And if you're confused on why a white man would have somebody like black caring for their horses, this was in 1806, okay? Black people were kind of the caretakers of white people and their horses, okay? And at this time before emancipation, black people, because of their advantage of being around horses in stables, being able to take care of the hooves, raise them and everything, gave them an advantage in the sport of racing. Like, you can't exactly dribble a ball one time and be LeBron, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's true that black people trained them. Well, it's true that black owners trained them. The social benefit of owning a horse, though, was still credited to its owner. And there was no value to the horse jockey, as what they would call it, before horse racing. As you had to have money to have a good, strong, well taken care of horse. As you know, reparations weren't exactly given, so in order to buy land and create a living for themselves, black people saw success winning horse races, right? And we're about to get into Murphy. I'm about to introduce y'all to somebody that aura farmed like no one you ever seen before. Aura farmed on horses. This is some ancestral shit. Like, this is I'm saying like I was kind of surprised when I was like, oh, black people horse raced, but then I was like, no, wait a minute, that's like peak aura farming. I could see a black man like riding a horse in some dress. I could see that shit, like looking back and spitting. But anyways, there was a time where horse racing was the most famous, the most famous pastime of America, right? Where is it? As recently as the 1950s and 1960s, horse racing was the #1 spectator sport in the United States. However, horse racing in the United States is currently struggling to survive due to international competition for the finest horses. But horse racing in and of itself boomed in the North after the Civil War, right? The site of elite courses such as Jerome Park, Chesapeake Bay, and Belmont Park were the spots of like prestigious jockey clubs. And one of these dudes that made it big with these jockey clubs was Isaac Murphy. When the Civil War put an end to horse racing during the 1860s, all horses that were needed for the military ended up back in the hands of these horse owners, and then it was open season. The years following the Civil War, white people would call it like the pre-war era, black people would call it the Jim Crow era, you know what I mean? This was after emancipation denounced slavery, but allowed for segregation as an instilled systemic practice in society. In 1875, I said 19, oh God. In 1875, the Civil Rights Act bill was passed, and the Louisville Jockey Club, later renamed like Churchill Downs, started integrating black people. And only 5 days after the fact, a rider named Murphy would like define this period of black athletes, right? Like he would create the hype, the spectacle. And this is where Andrew Jackson would come in with his horse betting and all the things. But before that, the Kentucky Derby was the biggest first spectacle of black jockeys kind of coming into the limelight, where 13 out of 15 of the black jockeys, including the winner, were present there. And Oliver Lewis was the winner's name. First of all, though, you have to understand how big an aspect of personal liberation earning this much amount of money was for horse jockeys or black people in general in context to the Jim Crow era, right? From being restricted to third spaces like schools, railroads, and racing tracks to now thriving in a system which like prioritized the work of those who knew how to do it rather than exploit them for the cost of their bodies. You know what I mean? They now had agency. They now could make like a band with this. You know what I'm saying, chat? Someone said, damn bots, you bought it already. What's good, Flying Oblivion? The first Memorial Day in the US happened on a racetrack. Yup. I saw it in a documentary. I put that in my little notes, but you said it before me. Oh my God. Someone said that's why I love Nope. Okay, let me keep going with this explanation. Thank all y'all for being here too. I just reached affiliate on Twitch too, so we gotta clap for that. Y'all gotta sub to the Twitch too and the side channel, because the VODs will be on the side channel after this. But needless to say, this was a big aspect of personal liberation. Now that they were able to put a personal price tag, I guess, on their bodies, in the same way athletes of today are even held on to, with LeBron spending almost $1.5 million on his body a year, because he knows that his body is $1 trillion investment in the eyes of the spectacle, in the eyes of basketball, right? Without LeBron, his shoes wouldn't sell as much. His contextual conversation of greatness met in a soft power with all these TikTok trends on Instagram, on Twitter, and all this wouldn't be the same, right? Anyways, though, the breakaway of legal constriction to a system of slavery signified hope for black communities, right? Competition being on a level playing field was a huge contender of like social debate too. And Murphy, who was this idea to a predecessor to the idea of a black athlete people like LeBron would embody. I didn't even show y'all need to see what Murphy looks like, actually. I didn't even show y'all what Murphy looks like. This is what Murphy looked like. This is the face of Isaac Murphy, right? But Isaac Murphy, oh my God, my Isaac Murphy, the predecessor to the idea of this black athlete that LeBron would embody like almost 100 years later in basketball, right, was a prominent face in this new emerging sport of horse racing, which was more popular than a number of other sports at the time, like including America's favorite pastime, baseball. Murphy was so popular in the sport and upsetting to the idea of masculinity that the idea that he was met with like a lot of popular, I guess, counterculture pushback too in the eyes of white normalcy, right? The idea that a black person could ride faster than a white person started the white man can't jump trope, or better known as like the great white hope, because he was such a good black athlete. Like the white public literally went, like, I have to emphasize this. I have to emphasize this, guys. I have to emphasize this, guys. The white public literally went and was like, we're gonna go try to find a white boy to beat this guy because he's just so good at racing. He was beating that much people, right? And in comes Andrew Jackson, who literally on his deathbed is quoted saying, in old age, telling an interviewer that his one regret in life was that none of his horses had been able to beat Jesse Haynes Maria in a race. And this was basically the horse that Isaac Murphy used. There were 9 separate times when Maria raced horses owned by Andrew Jackson, including races against Yellow Queen. And Decatur, a son of Truxton, and Maria won every single time. Her jockey in all 9 races was an enslaved man named Simon, also known as Prince and Monkey Simon. According to one account, before one contest, Jackson approached the rider and said, "Now, Simon, when my rider..." This is what he said. Like, this is how pressed Andrew Jackson was that he kept on betting on his horses and he couldn't win to Murphy because Murphy was just that good. Like, this is what he said. He went up to Simon and he said, "Simon, when my horse and rider come to pass you, don't spit your tobacco juice in their eyes." And then Simon said, "Why?" And then this is what he said. This is what he said. He said, "I rode a great deal against your horses, but none of them ever got close enough to catch my spit." Right? And Andrew Jackson was in a contextual conversation of, I guess you could say, ownership and whiteness and blackness and emancipation with Murphy, but they did have a bit of a rivalry and they did have a bit of static. Like, Murphy consistently proved the black spectacle as a positive, I guess, integration of American society against Andrew Jackson's wishes and against white supremacist wishes like this. Like, he was really out there. Like,
I have a dream.
He was out there with his fist up racing for real. But anyways, as we're moving further, there were a lot of white hopes that came up to try to combat Murphy alongside the hopeful wishes of betters like Andrew Jackson, former president, right? There were people like Garrison that would see themselves defeated by Murphy a number of times, and other black jockeys too, right? Because Murphy wasn't just a singular instance. There was a whole new class of black jockeys. On top of Murphy being the richest black man to exist in his context, he made sure the public knew that black people could stunt too. He and his wife moved into a large home in Kentucky. He bought land in Chicago. Like, communities in jockeys were forming to an extent in which when Murphy did Tony Hamilton's reception for his marriage, it was called the Black Lexington Event of the Year. Right? However, to a lot of civil rights activists, this wasn't seen as enough. One of them was William Julianson, because yes, there was a black middle class emerging, but that was up to the context of a lot of heated debate, because a lot of people said that this spectacle that Murphy was creating, right, that he was selling to the audience of Black America, was in extent flawed in and of itself, and a purposeful middle class that stopped the public from worrying about the majority of black people who are still suffering under Jim Crow law. You know what I mean? Wilson says, see, a lot of people back then felt that we would be free by 93 or 83 or 73 just by removing racial barriers. But the problem is that a system of racial discrimination over a long period of time can create racial inequality. A system of racial inequality that will linger on, even burped twice, even after racial barriers come down. This is because the most disadvantaged The most disadvantaged blacks, victimized by decades and centuries of racial oppression, do not have resources that allow them to compete effectively with other people. They are also at a disadvantage, right? So the removal of racial barriers creates the greatest opportunities for the more trained and educated minority members. People develop resources because of the advantages associated with the family background and the resources that the parents pass on to the children in financial means. So in Isaac Murphy's case, this talent accrued from slavery, you know what I mean? The aspect of being really good with horses, becoming a public spectacle, was not enough essentially to further all black people, because not all black people are racing horses, right? In the same way, there was a class of, you know, people taking care of crops and things, like watermelon crops, like black farmers doing watermelon crops, and they kind of became a public spectacle too, right? Of a class of black farmers that were coming up, and then were degraded too. What happened with that, I guess, confliction with white normalcy, because Murphy was pushing against whiteness so hard, was a kind of new contextual conversation of, is racism over or is it still around, right? And I know what you're thinking, like Jim Crow America, is racism over? There's still white or black signs, you know what I'm saying? Like black people are still being lynched type shit, like you know what I mean? But this was that generation's conversation, is racism over, in context to the merit of this minority of black athletes and specialized workers who, out of slavery, accrued all these talents and then tried to make communities for and of themselves, right? Because no longer was the black body a slave, but now a spectacle of newfound black acclaim in America. His spectacle, when pitted against white wealth, was wild, right? Many people were offended that Murphy could buy mink coats, the best clothes you can imagine, and was even accompanied by like a young white valet. I have to actually show you this, because this was wild when I saw this. Murphy and he has like a little white assistant and his white valet. Like, look at this. Oh, Isaac Murphy. They won't even show us on Google. They don't ever want to see a black. Look at that. He had a white valet. Like, look at that. He got that rich. Like, he was really up. He was putting that white boy to work. Like, whoa. Like guys, like, y'all seeing this? Y'all see, this is the dream MLK had.
I have a dream.
I had a dream. But anyways, Murphy became an illusion for society. He was a prominent example of what a black person that captured freedom after the emancipation could reach in limits, right? He earned more than the Chicago White Stockings baseball team, like $15,000 to $20,000 a year. And that might not sound like much, but the average worker, by comparison at that time, made $500 to $1,000 a year. And Murphy was making $15,000 to $20,000 a year, right? In the same way that NBA or NFL in contemporary media is seen as too big to fail, the sport of horse racing too, both in black identity and both in public spectacle, right? The athletes were too important, it was said. But within 20 years, the black jockey or the black horse racer fizzled out and it completely died. This phenomenon is now coined as the jockey syndrome in the $40 Million Slaved, defined by the changing of the rules of the game when met with the challenge of white supremacy, right? And I gotta read this out to y'all because recalling this from memory is one thing, but this one's tricky, so I gotta low-key read this out, right? So right there. The key push to exclude black jockeys came when white jockeys began violently attacking their African American counterparts by boxing them out during races, running them into the rail, and hitting them with riding crops. These attacks prevented black jockeys from finishing in the money and endangered fragile and valuable racehorses. Soon after the attacks began, African American jockeys found they could not get rides. Anxiety over job insecurity appears to have played an important role in white jockeys' actions. You see what I was saying? Like that, they were mad that Isaac Murphy was making so much and and I guess distorting the image of whiteness in a public setting. There was only a limited number of riding slots after all. White jockeys would have benefited in any circumstances from the exclusion of black jockeys, but in the late 1890s, the US was in a depression, and unease about finding rides was especially high, combined with the growing anti-gambling crusade that reduced attendance at racetracks and eliminated some tracks entirely. Jockeys found demand for their services contracting. Owners tactically participated in the expulsion of African American jockeys. For some, it could have been a matter of prejudice, but for others, it was a business decision, right? The truth was, this new monetary incentive, propelled by a history of communal oppression, bought Murphy's imagination. I'm saying LeBron, and by proxy, Michael Jordan, LeBron, any type of athlete you could think of, right? A lot of us in proxy, in awe of this spectacle, are also bought by our imaginations of wealth, of blackness, of culture inside of the spectacle, right? And Murphy wasn't just a singular instance though, right? He was just somebody that beat the president, so it was kind of cool to start on. But between 1890 and 1899, 6 of the 9 derbies were also won by black jockeys. In the same way we see like the NBA finals and caricatures of cultures displayed in the NBA and NFL. LeBron and NBA's soft power go to sell the imagery of sports to men in our digital algorithm. But essentially, it started out of a social conflation or a social need to make contingent slaves or a contingent middle class in context to degradation that blackness was felt, right? And this is a quote from $1 Million a Slave. To make a contingent slave, you must make a thoughtless one. It is necessary to darken his moral and mental vision as far as possible, to annihilate his power of reason. He must be able to detect no inconsistency in slavery. The man who takes his earnings must be able to convince him that he has all the right to do so. A slave must be no higher law than his master's will. The whole relationship must demonstrate to a public its absolute rightfulness, right? Essentially, the ideation of Murphy was a premature version of LeBron, however layered in the spectacle, in the MVPs, in the figurines, and in the salaries, in a history of characterization, not removed from social stripe. The ritual of cheering for our prized heroes extends further back than 2025. They were doing that all the way back with Murphy, right? We cheer for these heroes because we're like, oh, we see a black person winning at the end of the day. This is the same vibes as seeing like a black person at the Oscars and just clapping. Like, oh, fuck, y'all made it that far. Like, I'm kind of happy. Like, this torch, though, is passed on throughout history onto central bastions of masculinity, right? Because before LeBron, there was Michael Jordan. Although LeBron would take the torch in our era, Jordan started the ideal or the new age version on the TV of the black athlete through the marketing of his own brand. And since black athletes historically have essentially always been a paradox to white supremacy in the ways they're able to thrive in a public viewership, Jordan was able to infiltrate and influence culture very easily, right? He started sneaker culture, by the way. Jordan literally started sneaker culture. And for everybody that's too young to remember that, wait, I gotta pull up this. Nah. I got the perfect article for this. I got the perfect article for this, actually. I got the perfect article for this. I got an article for everything. White Download Brothers. By the way, it's nice seeing everybody in the chat and everything, even though I started a little bit late. It's nice to have people here and listening to me ramble about this. But anyways, the transformation of the NBA from a national sports league to a world-spanning brand, as normal as it now seems, has only occurred during the last 2 decades. It's mostly attributed to Michael Jordan. Jordan was the right player at the right time, soaring onto TV exactly as the NBA's image was ready to be remade and sold across the globe. At the same time, he helped to forge a new African-American image, right? The first Jordans, released in 1985, epitomized cool, all black with a red Nike swoosh. Until then, basketball shoes had been mostly white. The NBA reacted by banning the Renegade shoes. Jordan kept wearing them though, and Nike simply paid the $5,000 fine the NBA assessed each game. Surely one of the greatest marketing brands ever. This outlaw factor played in the fact that Jordan on court was a badass. He waved his ton before a drive, sported a gold chain, trash talks, and blasted to the hoop for detonating jams. Right? So he started this idea of a hooper on live TV through the ideation of material, I guess, advertisements. Like if you buy these shoes, you can also be Jordan, or you could also endorse in this culture. But also in the power, in a sense of a soft power that extends to blackness, has always been around before Jordan. So him coming in and absorbing this acclaim for black viewership or black athletes, right, is historical. As he stepped in, he already had like this wide degree of black viewership that was already fixated on a spectacle since the 1800s, since Isaac Murphy, right? And he took advantage of that soft power and basically just ran with it. And this was at the same time, like I said, a lot of the middle class black people were coming up. A lot of middle class black areas were coming up, where a prominent middle class was being shown on TV. As they're saying here, the resulting television ads featured Spike Lee as Mark Blackman, and Spike Lee's created a number of black movies. Oprah, The Cosby Show, all these things. Jordan kind of interlinked that by advertising on those shows in Community, and through a perception of his style or his brand of basketball, right? So LeBron would take pages out of this book, getting into sneaker culture, signing some of the most amazing deals, right? However, he wouldn't have this opportunity if the black athletes before him hadn't structured what it meant to be black systemically by breaking down contextual barriers of racial conversations and existing as enigmas in systems that are inherently exploitative to black people, right? See, I think sports is in kind of a digital age or digital enlightenment for black athletes. You know, in the days of the digital algorithm. This is particularly because of the Ball brothers, Zion Williamson, Mikey Williams, Seventh Woods, Cade Cunningham, like Jalen Green, like all their mixtapes, like, you know, coming up, creating a theater of viewership on short form retention algorithms, right? However, it wasn't always this way. The conversation of a black athlete has been marked by the perception of black masculinity. And notice how I said like black, because that asterisk is there for a reason, right? When I say LeBron is a slave, I'm not saying LeBron is a slave in context to a mode of individuality that we've met pre-emancipation. I'm saying LeBron is kind of wielded in a public spectacle or wielded in a public limelight as this optimal black athlete purposefully. And he fits a new age spectacle in our day and age that kind of dissuades the image of blackness from its material reality, right? And what spectacle is a viewed image. I already explained this a million times in a million other videos, so y'all should know at this point, but a connected image from the audience and us, right? When we see LeBron, what do we think of, right? Like one of the best basketball players in the world and one of the most famous people in the world to be it, right? But the division of white and black athletes has North American roots in a racial reality of binary emplacement, right? In the form of white owners holding the lives of dozens of black athletes at a time, like Andrew Jackson with Murphy, determining their rates, play times, earnings, when they eat, how they work out, how they'll play in the modern day. This same system of ownership over the lives of black athletes has existed since emancipation, right? Now they're getting paid tens of millions of dollars and even billions at this point with LeBron, sure. But being contingent to a system that uses your personhood as a marketing tool is a detriment at a racial level. Like this is 4D chess on the ideations of what a black boy can be, even in everyday life, right? Like you literally have to lose bits of your humanity in order to be a person like Kobe Bryant or LeBron or something like that, right? And it all starts off with selling boys a dream of emplacement through the NBA and sports as a whole. And there's some researches here, because I do want to talk about my experience, but we also need the experience of scholars and everything. Have y'all ever been on sports teams? I need the audience right now for this. Have y'all ever been on sports teams? And have y'all ever been caricaturized, I guess, in a way by an athlete or a coach or in a third space? You know what I'm saying? Because very specifically, I remember growing up being put in a kind of pseudo context of basketball, even right from the jump. My favorite aspect or my favorite sport was soccer for the longest allotted amount of time. But the way I got in sports and the way I got in these third spaces was teachers pushing me to do X and X, right? If I didn't get pushed by my drama teacher to hop on the stage, I would have never ever touched the drama button. You know what I mean? I would have never ever tapped into the drama group chat and would have never ever done drama or video essaying or any type of writing or theater or all that. But sports and everything was kind of an assumed identity for specifically me. And I know a lot of the other black men on my team and everything. As soon as I hit grade 5, I was being asked by almost every single person that was a coach, join this team. Actually, grade 6, because we go from grade 6 to 9 and then grade 10 to 12. But from grade 6 to 9, it was every single coach from every single department you could think of saying, join this team. And specifically, I had a fixation with basketball. But since I also wanted to, appease my coaches and be appraised in the same way, or I guess seek the rewards of this type of public spectacle that sports gave to people like me or boys like me, then I was like, sure, I'll take it. Right, so I joined soccer, I joined volleyball, I joined track, I joined all these teams because people kind of pushed me towards this. But things that I joined on my own were things like student council, the yearbook clubs sometimes, like theater appreciation, things like that I kind of went out and sought on my own, right? And there's kind of a conversation here, even in an everyday conversation or everyday context, of how is that soft power still going on in the lives of black boys or black people in general? You know what I mean? Like, what are black people prioritized in? Because LeBron, at a same level of popularity, sits with Obama. And in context to black masculinity, they both play two very different precarious roles, right? But how can someone like LeBron or the sports spectacle of Isaac Murphy last so long that somebody like Michael Jordan could be a billionaire and own a team? Or LeBron could be a billionaire and own a team, right? This pervasive idea has been sold to such extreme lengths that we all feed into it. I don't know much black boys actually that didn't go by student athlete, right? Student athlete was a big term placed on all of us because we did so much sports and all that. Although we weren't going to the NBA and we didn't really have like much prospects. To that degree, that's how public spectacle and public viewership saw a lot of us, right? And I want to go down this. I want to break this down. It is stated here. One of the best documented themes in the research is that the overall presentation of black men and black boys in media is a distortion of reality in a variety of ways. While individual studies may focus on a single genre or medium, such as TV fiction shows, magazine advertisement, or video games, the research taken as a whole reveals broad patterns, including the underrepresentation of black Americans in a variety of roles such as talking heads in news experts, computer users in TV commercials, and relatable characters with well-developed personal lives. Conversely, black males are overrepresented. Conversely, black males are overrepresented when media touches on certain negative topics, such as criminality, unemployment, and poverty, for instance. Also, the positive images and attributes with which black males are associated tend to be constrained to a small, stereotypically set genre, which includes sports, physical achievement in general, aggressiveness, and musicality to exclusion of every other day virtues, right? So this is where the positionality of, I guess, this black third space, this soft power, and life kind of come to divulge. We have to realize that the media or the digital ethos or the digital spectacle that LeBron lives in very much is there as an aspect of entrapment to the lives of a lot of black people too, for a material sense, selling the idea of, yes, there is a reality that you can get tons of money and be situated in a public ethos of America and be applauded for it, even if you're a basketball player or if you're X or if you're X, right? It's said here, as black men, wait, I gotta throw this on the screen. Predator or prey. This is a really good article y'all should read if y'all have time, but I need to I need to read some of this here. This article is all about how black bodies are kind of sexualized to a public spectacle. As black men ascribe to both African American and male categories, their stereotypes and social perceptions are formed traits associated with both blackness and masculinity. Traditional masculinity characterizes men as strong, actively pursuing sex, and dominant. Black masculinity is viewed as an inferior form of traditional masculinity, so these problematic stereotypes are exaggerated to further label black men as animalistic, hypersexual, and violent. These stereotypes not only contradict the traditional narrative of a sexual assault victim, but perfectly aligns with the narrative of a sexual predator, thus encouraging society to perceive black men as perpetrators. A big part of this video, or the ideation of black men as slaves to the sports that they play, is the reaffirmation of the stereotype that someone like LeBron brings to the forefront, right? I need to stress that the problem as a whole is not LeBron, okay? See, I'm thinking about this at a macro level. Macro means like whole. You know what I mean? Micro would mean like subjectively. It'd be like me and you interacting. But macro would be like the whole circle, right? I'm thinking about this in a macro. The problem is not just LeBron. If we're all molecules in an equation of chance, the end result of sports being so synonymous with black men has to be because a charge in like the valence shell is calling out to it, you know? We naturally perform the constructs of gender. Oh my god, I drank water and started burping. Every time I drink water, I start burping. It's like a burp problem, oh my god. But we naturally perform the constructs of gender and familial relation we're taught, right? And someone like LeBron was just the best at basketball, you know what I'm saying? And he was rewarded for it. It's not his fault for being the best, but rather a media system that pushes sport as the optimal option for black youth too. And a society which reaffirms these norms in everyday life through the algorithm, personal third spaces, and overall interaction, right? Like furthermore, it reads, this anti-black racist phenomenon reveals a direct correlation to the stereotypes in ideology produced and created from slavery, used during lynchings. That white women must be protected from animalistic violence, that black men are more so, that black men should more so be excessively punished for these crimes. It is transparent that the stereotypes assigned to black men during slavery are still relevant, as modern media portrays black men as thugs, criminals, and sexually aggressive. This stereotyping and increased sentencing of black men for these crimes further push the sexual predator type along black men. In a sense itself, you could say Kobe, LeBron, Bill Russell, and Magic Johnson in a public archetype with how we think about black men have existed for longer than we've even been born, right? Like these ideas have existed for a very, very, very long time. I'm not trying to come after your goat and say like LeBron is a coon. Actually, LeBron is a coon, actually. I'm so sorry, but he is sometimes. I'm gonna cut that out of the video and you're only gonna hear me say that during the stream, so less people are angry. But in a sense itself, you could say LeBron, Kobe Bryant, Bill Russell, and Magic Johnson in a public archetype with how we think about black men have existed for longer than when we were born. They predate us. We're actually just born into these molds, right? But because remember that the first athletics and the first person to suffer from the same idea of black contortion to white normalcy was Isaac Murphy. It was the first initial glaze for black art, and it happened at Fairmount Park, right? That hard work and determination attitude in the face of a black athlete has its roots in American horse racing. But because of our phones, a lot of this image of sports is able to be melded and reshaped by athletes on our phones and in media. Michael Jordan changed that in the age of the TV, but LeBron is changing that in the age of streaming. Aspects of sports are fueled by our ideations, meaning more than ever, an athlete that LeBron is can be projected as the most influential black man in North America, right? He's up there with, like I said, he's up there with Obama, a little former president in terms of influence. And this image alone has kind of made him bigger than the sport of basketball even. All of his actions are policed in a digital vacuum. Like all of his statements are very tightly knit. And let me bring up an example because I do have a little thing I want to show you of y'all remember Ingram and that shut up and dribble clip? Be prepared to be mad if you don't. Be prepared to be mad if you don't, because it's a little The white woman was white womaning. The white woman is white womaning.
All right, we're going to create a new banner. This is a Jum Doc alert.
So the context of this clip was LeBron was basically put basically on this talk show, and he was set to talk about the state of America. You know what I mean? Kind of what we want from black athletes. And he took a couple of jabs at Donald Trump. He said that the, most important person in the world, or the person that we praise the most, doesn't even take care of his people, right? And LeBron kind of feels a way about this because LeBron, as a black athlete, is put into this very public conversation the same way I'm putting him into the public conversation of a certain contention with blackness, or a certain aspect of a loyalty to community that people like the president don't really have to have right now as he creates his own Gestapo, right? And this was Trump's first administration. So this clip kind of aged really well, but we're about to see this.
NBA superstar LeBron James is talking politics again, and this time it's R-rated. Here's his barely intelligible, not to mention ungrammatical take on President Trump in a new ESPN podcast.
The number one job in America, the point of person, is someone who doesn't understand the people and really don't give a about the people.
But wait, there's more gripping insight. ESPN host Carrie Champion asked James and fellow NBA star Kevin Durant about what she described as Trump's racist comments.
I feel like our team as a country is not ran by a great coach.
It's not even a surprise when he says something. It's not even, it's like laughable. It's like,
it's laughable.
It's laughable and it's scary.
But it's also scary.
Right.
It shouldn't be numb to your racist.
See, LeBron here is talking about statements that Trump has made to the black community. So just keep that in mind.
Right.
I shouldn't be numb to your behavior.
I'm numb to this commentary. Like, must they run their mouths like that? Unfortunately, a lot of kids and some.
Did you hear what she said when she said, must they run their mouths like that? Did you hear her say, must they run their mouths? Did you hear her say, must they run their mouths like that? Who is they? Who must they run their... Y'all hear that? Anyways, in contextual conversation to what a black athlete is or embodies in a public zeitgeist, even when LeBron has some kind of statement or some type of urgency met with the well-being of his own community, you'll see people like this, like the most lame Bob. Like, look at this Bob. That Bob is stale. That Bob is not bobbing. Your name is not B.O.B. Your name is Fred. Your name is Fred, and you sell petunias. You know what I'm saying? This looks like you look like a cast out member of the Scooby-Doo Mysteries and Corporate Inc. This is like some Caucasian malarkey that like spans so far back. Like, this is some Macbeth shit. You know what I mean? Like, I read about this in grade 12. Like, I swear I read about people like you for a while. Like, this was the myth. This was the Jesus of Karens. This was the Karen that walked out of the tomb. Like, this is something else. But anyways, in conflation with conversations of people like her, right? Like, hopping on and having some type of ideation for LeBron, all because he's an athlete, right? And that he can't have like this sort of opinion because he's being paid so much. It's weird for me. But let's see the rest of this.
Some adults take these ignorant comments seriously. Look, there might be a cautionary lesson in LeBron for kids. This is what happens when you attempt to leave high school a year early to join the NBA. And it's always unwise to seek political advice from someone who gets paid $100 million a year to bounce a ball. Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
She said, shut up and dribble. She said, shut up and dribble, chat. She said, shut up and dribble, chat. She said, shut up and chat.
I have a dream.
She said, shut up and dribble, chat. Right? So this is what happens when black athletes have some type of opinion in a public zeitgeist. All of a sudden, their soft power or their stance or their usage in capitalism, right? All of a sudden it's pointed out. It's, oh, you didn't go to school, you didn't have X, you don't have these qualifications, you don't have these qualifications. This was the same point of conflation put on Isaac Murphy during that kind of era in in the jockeys, you know, horse racing time, when all these white athletes banded together, and the racers too, to basically defame him when he was getting too much clout, too much money, too much opinions and things of that sort, right? This is how athletes like LeBron will constantly be put down in the media too. So to say that LeBron is a slave, you know what I mean? Might be a long shot. It might be a very, very long shot, but in the aspect of spectacle, in the aspects of audience relation, LeBron's purpose is a useful bastion of power in adjacency to white supremacy, right? He's only taken in certain amount of times. At certain amount of times, LeBron James is taken seriously. When LeBron James is playing basketball, he will be applauded and he will be cheered for it, and we will sing his praises to the sun. We'll be like, what a beautiful wedding. What a beautiful wedding. When LeBron James, you know what I'm saying? But when LeBron has a conversation in a political public, all of a sudden they're pulling back that ideal of, well, you're earning way more than the average person, right? All of a sudden they can attack him from an aspect of class. And this is weird to me because it extends to white athletes. Somebody like Tom Brady will never be treated like this, right? Tom Brady will, one, be protected by the media, and two, protected by his white counterparts. And I kind of have another example of this, where somebody on a white football team was using a MAGA hat. I don't know if I have it. MAGA team, Bill Mayer. I actually don't know if I have this, chat.
For Christian.
Okay, chat, we just going to something else because I don't know if I can fit that contention. But that was the stream. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for chilling with me. It was fun having y'all here. It was fun ranting. It was fun concerning y'all about LeBron James and his the reason why I think he's a slave. But y'all have any questions before I end this? These are definitely the last 5 minutes before the stream ends, so get all your questions off. Thank you, by the way, Loops. Thank you, Scott. By the way, subbing on my Twitch is amazing for the channel, and subbing on my side channel too. You will see all the VODs up there. The VODs are actually, I really have to thank y'all because the VODs are actually growing so quickly, and the Twitch is growing so quickly for some reason. So it's hearts to y'all. It's hearts to y'all because y'all make all of this work. Like, my live audience over everything is cool to me because I get to hop on and do this interactive thing back and forth with y'all. But yeah, thank you back to you, Scott. Thank you back to you, Lopez. And thank you for everyone for spectating. I'm about to hop off. It was fun. I'll catch y'all later.